Grabar en la nube, conectando. Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Jaime.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Everyone,
Morning, everybody.
welcome to my Zoom house, and let me introduce Mr. Dennys Montano from Ecuador. Dennys has over 22 years of experience in the field of English language education. He's currently leading the English program at Yachay Tech University in Urcuqui, Ecuador. I've been there just once, beautiful city. Dennys has 2 degrees in business administration, 2 postgraduate diplomas in education, a master's degree in curriculum design, and he is pursuing a PhD in education. He has been a consultant for the Ecuadorian Ministry of Education and an international keynote speaker at several prestigious conferences. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you, dear Dennys, for being here. Thank you very much.
Let me now share my screen. Okay, there it is. And okay. First, I chose this topic, as I was saying, because a lot of teachers have been having a lot of issues with assessment. In our case, I want to explain what happened to us. We began the semester after the holiday of Carnival, which was by the end of February, around the 24th, 25th of February. And basically we began our normal face-to-face classes. We begin an online project that I presented in Peru last year, in Piura and also in Chiclayo. We had this project with some institutes in Tulcan. Tulcan is a city in the border between Ecuador and Colombia, in the north of Ecuador. And this is a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from where I live, Ibarra, and where the university campus is, to Tulcan. So because of some problems with the government, they lost their English department, and the rector or the head of the university contacted us in order to help them with the English of their students, because they need to have a certificate in order to graduate. So we designed this blended program, which had a component of online classes. It also had an autonomous learning, and of course face-to-face, which was every 2 Saturdays. And so we designed this back in December 2018, and we started the program on April 2019. So we began doing this that everyone is doing right now back in 2019 in April with these groups. It was hard because they have never had blended classes. Some of these students didn't have computers nor internet. Some of them worked, so they were they had families, children, and also husbands, wives. So their socio-economical condition was between middle class to low class, and it was difficult. We had good results. The first module, we had 50% of the students passing. It was a good number based on what we had. And then it started racing. The second module went up to 60%. And the last one that we've ended, we ended up with 72% of students passing with real Common European Framework levels, because we evaluated them at the end. And so we were working on this before all this pandemic thing started, but we have not done this with our own students because we were students. It was a normal face-to-face setting. And we were normally in class until, I remember a lot of dates because my birthday was on March 13th, Friday. And on March 12th was my dad's and my nephew's birthday. So I remember the president going on national TV saying that all the borders were going to be closed and that people were going to be home and nobody could go out and classes were going to be canceled in a face-to-face setting and that classes were going to be online. That happened on a Thursday, March 12th. We were normally in classes that day. And then the following day, our classes, or our head of the university, canceled them. And we had a weekend to pass from face-to-face classes to online classes. In our case, we didn't have any issue because we had been working with this with the Tulcan project. But for the rest of the faculty, it was a little hard. Now, I cannot say that everything was, rainbow colors or unicorns flying around and everything, because it wasn't. And we have had a lot of, not a lot, but we have had a percentage of students dropping. And actually the percentage grew when school began in the coast. Because here we have different schedules or academic calendars for the highland and for the coast. So the highlands has almost the same international setting as the States and other European countries. Classes begin around September and they end around June. But the coast has a different calendar. The coast begins classes by April, and they end classes around at the beginning of February. So since we were on the vacation time of the coast, we didn't have issues at the beginning, but when people and their brothers and sisters begin classes, then we had an issue. Our university has an international setting. I mean, students, besides having teachers from all over the world, students live on campus. I think it's the only university in Ecuador that more than 90% of the students live on the university campus. So we have students from all over Ecuador, from Loja, Galapagos to Tulcan. It means from the border with Peru to the border of Colombia and also in the Galapagos Islands. So we had to send everyone back to their homes during that weekend of canceling classes. And then we begin all this process of starting classes and all this. So when their brothers and sisters begin classes and now 4 or 5 students needed internet and computers inside homes, we started to receive students' letters asking that they are dropping the course. It was hard because some of these were really good students, and we're finishing the semester next week. The rector and the deans decided that we're going to extend it for a couple more weeks in order to have a review with all of the students who did not drop and try to reduce the amount of students failing the course. So because of this and other presentations that I have had, one of the biggest questions is what to do with assessment. And specifically, what happens when students are not doing their assignments responsibly and they're trying to cheat. So when Jaime asked me, hey, Dennis, I want you to join us with these chats and all, I told him, I think this is the topic for that. And for the first time in all these years working on seminars and conferences, I sent him the abstract like in 2 or 3 days. Because I normally, because of time, I'm normally the last one. And I'm really sorry for that, Jaime, but he knows that there's a lot of things going on here and I'm always full of things. But this time I knew exactly what I wanted to talk. And for the first time, like in 5 conferences that we've been together, I sent him on time the abstract and all the information.
And we thank you for that, dear Dennys, deeply.
And yes, thank you. Thank you for considering me for this and sharing this information with everyone. Now, I wanted to begin this with this quote from Charles Darwin. And it's not my, I mean, I know it's not my quote, but I haven't been using it. It's one of my teachers in my English team that uses it a lot. And I'm gonna quote her at the end of this presentation, but she always uses this, this quote. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And why am I using this? Because that's what we're living right now. We're living a moment of change. And it's really a necessity for us English teachers to continuously move from one safe setting to a totally new, challenging environment. And also I'm gonna name someone, I hope she can join us. So Jaime, if you see Carolina Espinosa joining in, please inform me and I will tell you later on who she is. But let's begin.
I will.
Okay, thank you. She said that she will join around 10 o'clock. I hope, because she had an interview with a Chinese newspaper. So in the morning, she said at 10 she will be available and she will try to join us. Okay, so first, to begin, what is assessment? I wanted to do a difference between assessment and evaluation before going into the COVID time and what can we do or what tools can we use in order to assess our students. So assessment is a systematic process of documenting and using empirical data to measure knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs. Assessment is basically the process. It's checking the process, the whole process of the student teaching learning process. And then what happens with evaluation? Well, evaluation focuses on grades and might reflect classroom components other than course content and mastery level. Evaluation is basically measuring the knowledge that the students have of a certain topic. So we are measuring two different things here. One is assessment, which evaluates the whole process. And then we have evaluation, which is measuring the final result of what the students have acquired or learned in that process. Now, I have brought some differences between both of them based on the dimension, on timing, focus of measurement, the relationship between administrator and recipient, finding, uses and thereof, ongoing modifiability of criteria, measures thereof, standards of measurement, relation between objects of assessment and objects of evaluation. So we have both of them. When we talk about timing, assessment is formative, evaluation is summative. And what is the meaning of this? That assessment is ongoing. It means it continues. It does not stop in order to improve learning. And evaluation in the other side, it's final to gauge quality and provides a closure. Because if we teach our students the simple present, we evaluate the students for the simple present at the end of the unit in order to see if they learned or not. So that is evaluation. And basically, we're closing that stage once we know if the students learn or not. It does not happen with assessment because we're more into, okay, now you know the simple present. How in the world are you going to use that simple present in a normal day-to-day life or in a conversation or in an essay or in another situation that you might need, okay? So assessment will be formative and evaluation will be summative.
Excuse me,
yes,
Dennis, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Does assessment involve teachers' work too?
What do you mean by teachers' work?
I mean, because of the results of the exams, because that's what I read, so I want to be sure about that, is that the teacher is also evaluated in his work to see if he's doing, I mean, by himself. He does it by himself.
Oh,
and
yes.
check if his work is okay or not.
Is
that right?
You're right, Jaime, because when we're assessing, we are assessing the process. And you will see on the other points that I have set in this chart, talking about what you're saying. You need to see if the process is going appropriately. So if it is not, you have a chance to correct, which is totally different in evaluation, because if you evaluate students, we're evaluating them in a formal exam. So students can set there in that exam what they know, or they can cheat. And at the end, if they get, let's suppose we're grading them over 10, and the student gets at 7, they pass. And sometimes they pass knowing, sometimes they pass not knowing. It's what happens. And when we do assessment, we're evaluating students, but we're also evaluating teachers. I'm not sure if it's in this one and in another one, but I have a drawing or a picture that also refers to that. But yes, you're right, Jaime. Okay, so when we focus on measurement, assessment is process oriented and evaluation is product oriented. And because that's what we were talking about. When we say process oriented, we're talking about how learning is going. If we're using the most effective tools, and if the teacher is doing the most efficient work in order for students to apply what they're learning, compared to evaluation, which is product oriented, and there is what has been learned. So going back to the simple present example, did they learn simple present or not? The relationship between administrator and recipient will be in assessment reflective. And here it's a little bit of what you were saying, Jaime, internally defined criteria and goals. And normally when you assess, you're not only assessing students, but you're assessing also yourself as a teacher, as an instructor, as a facilitator, and you are seeing that if your work is being effective or not, because if it is not, then you need to rearrange it. In the case of evaluation, it's prescriptive. And in most of the cases, it's externally imposed by the standards. When we worked on in the public sector or all the ministries of education, probably worldwide, they set standards for all the subjects, including English. So that's what we receive it, and we need to follow those standards. In the case of assessment, we make it more reflective based on what we're doing and if what we're doing is correct or not. Now, in finding, uses, and thereof, assessment is diagnostic because it identifies areas for improvement. And in the case of evaluation, it's judgmental and arrives at an overall grade or score. Because then you normally, when you have grades, what you do is you set students that have a higher grade, students that have a passing grade, students that fail, and students that have a very low grade. And then you set them in groups. And then you judge how students did and if they learn or not. So in the case of one and the other, one will diagnose if what you're doing is correct or if the process is correct in order to change it. In the other one, you will wait for that until the end. And at the end, when you see that if all of the students pass, okay, no big deal, we go on to the next unit. If they had problems that they didn't pass, then you have to restructure what you're doing. Ongoing modifiability of criteria, measures, and thereof. In the case of assessment is flexible. In the case of evaluation is judgmental. So, fixed. So assessment is flexible. Why do we say that? Because it adjusts as problems are clarified. In the case of evaluation, fixed because it used to reward success or punish failure. And yes, it's like if you get a good grade, you're in the top students. It doesn't happen anymore, but I remember when I was a student in school, I remember that we were set by our grades. So the best students were sitting on the first rows, and it was like best students and so on. And then the worst student in grades was sat on the last part of the classroom. That was something happening back in the 80s when I was studying at school. But it happened. It doesn't happen anymore, I hope. But somehow we get a reward because if you get a good grade, your teacher gives you a happy face or a star, or gives you, a public credit for that, or you receive a punish failure, which is failing the course or just being set aside because you didn't get the best grades. And standards of measurement. Assessment is absolute. Evaluation is comparative. Why absolute? Strive for ideal outcomes. This is related directly to the outcomes of your syllabus, of the curriculum, of the planning that you're doing. And in the case of evaluation, it's comparative. Divide better from words. And relation between objects of assessment and evaluation, one is cooperative and the other one is competitive. Cooperative because we learn from each other. Students are learning, teachers are learning. Competitive because this is a beat each other out. It's the highest grade against the lowest grade. Now, I don't know if someone wants to add something or make a question about this before we go to the next part and talk a little bit more about this.
Anybody has a question? I have just asked everyone through the chat. Does anybody have a comment, question?
Okay.
I have a question. According to your experience in Ecuador, would you say that most people most teachers evaluate or assess? And then Tom has a question too.
According to my experience, it's evaluate. And I know why. One of the reasons was the Ministry of Education came with these crazy planning documents that they wanted and asked most of the school teachers and high school teachers. And school teachers ended up working on these plans for hours and hours every single day, stopping them from really doing what they should have been doing, which is producing material for their students. So these bureaucratic documentation of what they're doing to try to prove that they're working caused that teachers were more focused on documents to turn into the government than really doing what they were supposed to. Of course, a lot of them did, but I believe that our system, even though on the paper says assessment, is based more on evaluation.
Yeah, same thing here in Peru. Tom and Roxana have a question. Please.
Tom, please.
It's more a comment, really, but slightly different tangent. Sorry to take you off course, Denise. Is that I think it's a really useful topic right now because I know a lot of teachers in my school and other schools find this a really stressful time because in the case of my school, we weren't doing anything we didn't have anything. We weren't doing any virtual classes, anything for the first few weeks. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, guys, teach. So we had very little time to prepare. We didn't know whether we were going to evaluate, whether we could use what things we could use. So it's been a very, very stressful time for a lot of teachers, really. So, but the one area that I was thinking is very challenging when it comes to assessments. One of the few tools we have is to take in homework or tarea. And really, we don't know the validity of that work. We don't know whether someone's giving it off to their older brother who's fluent in English. We don't know if it's giving it to their tutor or someone that's... We don't know whether they've even done the work. We don't even know whether they've even just forwarded on their document. There's just no evidence that it's their work. And the challenge is we need to take some kind of tangible way to assess them. And in a very short class, when, for example, each class I'm teaching 3 hours per week, and to make very tangible assessments, it's challenging. It's challenging. So it's how much do we trust the work that they're submitting? I don't have a lot of confidence in some of the students that it's their own work, but I can't say because I can't prove it, and I shouldn't be. There's no proof that it's not their work. But also the challenge is how to make lots and lots of little assessments during class as well. So that's our ongoing conversations.
Thanks, Tom. Roxana and
Yes, of course. Yes, Tom, I totally agree with what you're saying, and that's the reason of this presentation. I'm going to share with all of you what my teachers have been doing. So before this, last week, I asked them to share with me what they had been doing in order to assess their students and try to reduce cheating. And I have a document with all of what my teachers have been doing with their university students. So I'm going to share also that with all of you guys, so you will have an idea of what we're trying to do. It's not stopping, probably cheating at all, but it has reduced it a lot. Okay, so we will also talk about that. Okay, Jaime, please.
Thanks a lot. Roxana, please, and then Edison.
Good morning, Dennys. I'm Roxana from Lima, Peru. I'm academic advisor of the language center. So it's been like a long time not working in the school. But when I worked before, I remember, especially in private schools, they make that division. Actually, currently, it's being done, that division of the good and the not that good students. But we do it here contrary to that. We sit at the front, the lower students, because the teachers are closer to them and they need closer help. And the more advanced students are the ones who can manage the language better than the others are sat at the back of the classroom. That's the opposite, as you commented. But that is happening nowadays. And some schools where they have individual tables, not in rows, but in groups, they are divided, the tables, right, by levels. And the table that are the lower students are sat all together that are closer to the teacher. So if she or he can give a closer help. What about the distribution in classes in private schools? Now, thank you very much about this chart about assessing and evaluating. I can find it very, very clear, the differences, but sometimes we confuse those terms here. And what I could have wanted to ask is assessing is permanently and evaluating is at the end of a period of time. I mean, for example, finishing a unit, we evaluate, but during the process of the unit, we assess. Is that correct?
Totally correct.
One question. Second question. For example, in my language center, we work with business people, right? And we assess our clients, we call them clients, at the beginning of the process, the first assessment, to see what exactly is their difficulties, their needs. And we recommend a specific course because we teach for SPS. And during the process, we evaluate our program as well, if it's working properly for the client. In that evaluation, if the process is not doing as is expected, we reevaluate and we recommend another program. Is that going well?
Yes, what you said, it's correct. First, yes, I believe that when we have students that have low grades, it's better to have them close to you in order to help them more. I remember it was a strategy when I used to teach back in high school, back in 2015 was the last time I taught high school. I used to have my worst student sitting in front of me because that was my assistant. It was the professor, the assistant professor in class. It worked for me because that student became a totally better student in that process. He was the one who had my notebook with the grades, attendance, and everything. And he was always there checking, stamping that everyone has worked. So that motivated him also to do it. And so I always had him there. What I was saying was something totally different. I mean, you know, putting your students from the best student to the worst based on grades and the total average, and then sitting them one by one according to that, it was crazy. Okay. So, but then the other thing, assessment, as you see here in finding, uses, and thereof, assessment is diagnostic. And that's what you do when you evaluate them at the beginning. So you're doing a good job. Assessment, it's ongoing. It doesn't stop. Okay. And in the case of evaluation, it stops when you finish the unit or the chapter or whatever, or the topic that you're teaching. Okay. So I think you're doing a good process. And we're going to go on to this, and then I hope I can give you a little bit more tips, or at least share with you my experiences about this.
Sorry, thanks, Roxana. And finally, Edison?
Yeah, thank you. I hope you can hear me now well, because I had problems with my mic. Okay, the real problem I see, okay, we can reflect. Most of us do that. That's why we are in this group. The problem is that policies around the education institutions like ministries, secretaries, whatever, in the government, is that they are going into standardize everything. And standards are not the norm. The standards, you cannot, you can set up some standards like Cambridge certifications, IELTS, TOEFL, and everything. But when you are in a class, you cannot set everything to a standard that sometimes is provided by somebody who has never taught. And that is a problem, because we are going, we usually in Latin American countries, we usually copy systems that are supposedly valid in some other realities. And that is a problem, because we want our students to get a B1 level with 3 hours of class a week. And that's not possible, considering that not all students have all the devices and the internet access and all the things they need to do that. They don't have the exposure to that language. So you cannot get a B1 with 150 hours of class a year. So if they have those, if they are lucky enough to get those hours, those periods, because they are periods of 45 minutes in classes of 30, 40, 50, and 60 students. So the problem is that's why teachers resort to evaluation instead of assessment, because circumstances in public schools, I mean public schools, because I've taught in private universities, private schools, but I have also taught at private public institutions for 30 years. So I know I'm teaching police candidates to become officers, and I see those problems. They are how to say, high school. They finish high school and they are in the superior school of police, but they have A1 level or less than A1. They are true beginners. So what happened with these 14 years of education in English? So that's what I said. They say at the end of the high school, students should be able to have a B1 level. How can they? So that's why teachers and students don't get the level they would like to have, they deserve to have, because circumstances that do not allow them to do, and because we just copy systems that are not valid for our reality. And that's the problem. The problem is that we resort to evaluation because we don't have the tools or the things we need to assess, even though we would like to, we'd love to, but assessing is more of a thing of an individual thing. Thank you. And time consuming with 60 students. How can I have 31 students teaching 6 hours a day every Saturday? What do they do during this other 6 days? How can I measure I start at 7, I'm going to finish 1:30 Saturday when they are already burned out. Okay, so so do you see what you mean? I am teaching true beginners and false beginners. everybody in the same room. So that is a problem. And that's what I am here also to learn from the ones who have already experienced these kind of things and can teach us something. Thank you.
Thank you, Edison.
Yes, Edison. Well, you're basically already summarized something that I was going to say later on about beginning to assess. One of the problems is that it's not related to the general outcomes. Most of this is because teachers do not know what are those general outcomes because they haven't done them. They were done by someone else, in most of the cases by people who never taught before. So there you have one problem. Now, I'm gonna share with you what we did because we had some situations similar to yours with true beginners and false beginners. And what I did was I got together with the person in charge of registering students, which in our university is called Registros Académicos. I know in some other universities it's Secretaría General, but I told him that after we evaluated them with our placement test, and we knew who did not know anything, no English, nothing, not even their names. We put those students based on their names. Once they registered, they were set to one class. And the other group that know a little bit more were set to a totally different class. So it was an administrative move that we made in order to have them separated. It was still the A1, in our case it's called level 1. It was still the A1 level, but they were divided into what they knew. So we had a teacher who was an expert on working with very low level students, working with them at their pace. And we had a totally different one working with the other group. So that's how we worked. I mean, it was still the same level, but we divided them administratively. And we did that like 3 semesters ago, and it has worked a lot for us, okay? Because it was the only way we found to do this. Is there another question, Jaime? Can I go on?
You may and you should go on.
Thank you. Assessment is an integral part of instruction as it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessment affects also decisions about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curricula, and in some cases, funding. And we also have some questions that we need to ask ourselves when we assess. Are we teaching what we think we're teaching? Are students learning what they are supposed to be learning? Is there a way to teach the subject better, thereby promoting better learning? And I think this answers your question, Jaime. Yes, we actually evaluate ourselves, self-assessment, and we are also evaluated by others, okay?
Yes,
now,
it does.
When we talk about the difference between assessment and evaluation, we're not saying that one is best and the other one is not. We're not saying that assessment is the right thing and evaluation is not what teachers have to do. No, actually, both of them are good. And actually, a good teacher should have a combination of both, should use this because they are part of evaluation is part of assessment too. We need to use both in order to have better results and have different ideas. Yes, it's good to diagnose, but it's also used to see the other part of the equation, which is actually to judge in order to decide. So it's good to reflect, but yes, we also need to prescribe. So it's good to do it process-oriented, but at the end, we are going to be evaluated by our final product. So we need to find a way into combining both of them. Now, when we talk about assessment, today's students need to know not only the basic reading and arithmetic skills, but also skills that will allow them to face a world that is continually changing. And now that it's even worse, for the first time, we had been in our homes without having a chance to go out, quarantine. So we need to rethink what our students need. And we're going to talk about that after a couple of slides. They must be able to think critically, to analyze, and to make inferences. And I put this sentence here because that's what we need to assess today. Tom was saying that he's having issues with knowing if their students are doing their work or not. And we're going to be talking about this and the way we need to rearrange or change this situation based on this. Teachers need to take an active role in making decisions about the purpose of assessment and the content that it's being assessed. Okay, so why are we talking about this? First, before we go to that part, when we talk about assessment, and today I'm going to talk about this deeper when we get to the slide about tips. But I wanted to introduce this part right now, and it's that we need to change what we were doing before. And we need to sit. In our case, we didn't have a chance. We had to move from one Thursday to the next Monday, from face-to-face to online classes. But right now, teachers have time because they begin classes already. Well, I know in the Highlands, they are already going to the same process as us, final exams. But you have a chance, and you need to think, what is your main goal? I mean, what is the main purpose? What do you want your students to know? Do we want the critical part? Should we assess them into critical thinking, into analyzing paragraphs or readings or other activities, make inferences about that? Or are we going to continue evaluating the same way we were evaluating before, which is, okay, we're evaluating grammar, so we're putting, multiple choice exercises about these grammar exercise and so on. One will lead students to ask for help to a tutor, a friend, a parent, an older brother. The other one will make students do a better effort into doing his task or homework. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Now, what is the importance of assessment in education? Well, it provides diagnostic feedback. What is the student's knowledge base, which was what Roxana was talking about? What is the student's performance base? And what are the student's needs? So see here, we're talking about performance, knowledge, and needs. And we're basically not talking about specific topics or units or chapters. What has to be taught? It helps educators set standards. What performance demonstrates understanding? What performance demonstrates knowledge? And what performance demonstrates mastery? So here we have the three different levels. It's like they understand, they know, they master this so they can apply it. Evaluates progress. How is the student doing? What teaching methods or approaches are most effective? What changes or modifications to lessons or modifications to a lesson are needed to help student? It relates to a student's progress. What has the student learned? Can the student talk about the new knowledge? Can the students demonstrate and use the new skills in other projects? So now it's interconnecting with other subjects. Motivates performance for the student self-evaluation and for the teacher self-evaluation. But right now, let's talk about the student self-evaluation. Now that I'm in charge of my learning, how am I doing? Now that I know how I'm doing, how can I do better? What else would I like to learn? And this is something that we use with our students in class. After every unit that we have in the whole process of learning, they have to do a self-evaluation and a peer evaluation of what they have acquired in the process. And at the beginning, it was hard for them. Like they were ashamed of being honest if they have learned or not. But as they got used to this, it was really good because you got a better feedback from them if they were learning or getting that information or not. Now, for teachers' self-evaluation, what is working for the students? What can I do to help the students more? In what direction should we go next? Continue to the next section of the guide, types of assessment. Okay? So those are some of the tips, of the important tips about assessment that I wanted to talk to all of you guys about. And that was like the introductory part before we go to the COVID. So assessment and evaluation, even though they are done differently, because one measures the process, the other one measures the final result, they are not enemies. They have different points of view. They evaluate different things, but they're not enemies. You can use both of them and you can still be a good teacher, okay? It depends on what the requirement of the situation is. Now, going into COVID, I don't know if someone has a question, Jaime. Carolina says that she's connected.
Okay,
Can you
we have 2 questions plus mine. You were saying that was the introductory part. and you have a lot of very important and very relevant questions. You are making us reflect and think, and I have to agree with Edison about his 30 years teaching and all the time that we need to process all of this information, but thank you very much. So I have a big request. Do you think we can have the summary of this presentation or maybe the PPT itself?
I have no problem with that. I will share it with you. If you want it in PDF, I can save it in PDF. If you want the PowerPoint, no big issue, my friend.
As you wish. Of course, we will respect the copyright. Dennys,
no problem, my
Montano,
friend.
No, thank you very much. So we have 2 questions, Lourdes and Emily. First, Emily. Emily? No? So then Lourdes and then Roxana.
Yeah.
Lourdes in the Netherlands.
Hello, Dennys. Nice meeting you. It's a very interesting topic. I'm not currently teaching at school, but because this is a presentation about assessment in times of pandemic, at the very beginning of this difficult period, I heard teachers saying that it's not necessary to assess students in these times. What do you think about it? Because now reading the slide, you know, that there are students without computers, without having internet access. So do we, stop assessing students? We just teach them normally in our lessons, but we don't assess them, we don't evaluate them. What do you think about this other theory that having no assessment in class?
Lourdes, I'm gonna excuse myself for not answering your question right now, okay?
No worries.
Give me 2 more slides and I will fully answer that question because what you're asking, it's there, okay?
Excellent, no worries.
Okay,
yes.
Then Roxana. Roxana
yes.
Tenorio?
Yes, I'm here. Dennys, here again. Just wanted to have something to think about. Sometimes when we are assessing our students, they're having a good result. So we notice that they are doing a good job, they are progressing during the classes. But after that, when they get the evaluation, the results are totally different. And sometimes we say the students are kind of phobias to being officially evaluated. When they are assessed, they don't know they are being assessed. We don't tell them. But when we tell them that they're going to be evaluated, they have a totally different result. And contrary to that happens the other thing as well. People during classes, sometimes they're kind of shy. Sometimes they understand, but they don't speak much. Most of the students understand, but they don't speak much. But when they come the written part and the evaluating exams or tests, they do it pretty well. So my question goes in this way. What are we going to give more weight to, the real permanent assessment or just a day in an evaluation?
And that's also one of the things that I will explain in another slide. And yes, and this comes when you plan, okay? It comes when you're doing the planning of what you're going to be evaluating and the importance about that. And yes, it's important to change the weight that you're putting on the evaluation. Okay, so we're gonna get to there. Okay,
yeah, thank you.
Jaime, can I go on?
Please do. Carolina is here. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Carolina Espinosa is here.
Yes, I'm gonna talk about Carolina Espinosa in a moment. I don't know if some of you guys know her, but you will in a moment too, okay? According to the UNESCO, 826 million students do not have a computer. And 706 million do not have internet access to attend online classes. Those are huge numbers. We're having students not being able to connect to online classes, and they're being left aside, okay? That's the reality. And so when we talk about COVID and assessment, we need to rethink which are the assessment strategies. Lourdes was asking something, and also Roxana was stating something different. And this is the part in which we need to focus. Rethink the assessment strategies. Should we give the final exam a 25% weight of the total grade, a 30% weight of the total grade, a 40% grade weight of the total grade? Should we reduce that to 10%? Should we focus more on assessment, on the whole process and the effort the student is making in class in order to try to succeed and achieve the goals that we have set? That's the important part. Shift from in-presential time limited exams to remote exams. It's difficult, but it happened. Teachers were forced to do it. Highland school teachers and our university teachers had to change from face-to-face exams to remote exams like this. And there was no time for preparing, getting courses, doing this, doing that. It was just working together as a team in order to try to succeed. Set up fair assessments in line with learning outcomes. And this is the part that Edison was talking about when he said, other people make standards. So sometimes they don't even know, they have never taught before. And yes, if you do not set your assessment in the same line with the learning outcomes, then you are not going to get a result, okay? It's as simple as that. We will have to go and see which are the learning outcomes of the syllabus, of the curriculum, which is the main part. Try to understand what these guys try to wrote there, okay? And try to come up with what is the most important things about it. So, Carolina says that she can't activate her camera. I'm not sure if it's you. Can you give her a hand? So this is important when we're doing the assessment.
Okay, I do it.
Okay, thank you. Assessment should not be an afterthought of the module design, but should be considered as one of the cornerstones of module preparation. Now, here is the main difference between one and the other, okay? So we should not wait until the end of the unit or the chapter to know what's going on. I mean, assessment, it's not an after another thing. It should be done previously. Okay, so right now when we're sitting, especially the teachers from the coast, because the ones from the highlands, they are probably going into final exams already, or they did. So for the ones that are beginning their classes, this is the moment in which they should sit and say, okay, by February next year, I will be assessing this part. But through the whole process, I'm going to be doing this, and that. Because this is the goal or the main achievement that I want my students to do or to get or to acquire when they finish this year of classes. What do I want to teach students? How will I test they have learned it? Given these 2 points, how should I teach? And I brought this picture because I liked it. Have you submitted your homework yet? Not yet, because I had to help at home. Electricity is rarely there, and I just don't know how to submit. I'm basing this presentation on experience, on experience. And when we had the first quizzes before the midterm, teachers were stressed. And they were stressed because they knew cheating was going to be an issue. And they also knew that it was not going to be easy. But what they did not realize, not all of them, but a percentage of them, was the situation that students were also going through. And we also need to have them in this equation. It's like they are a very important component of this equation. We cannot just think that our subject is the most important thing, that our knowledge and experience as teacher is the most important thing, and the students are just there. Because it's not like that. We're teachers not for us, we're teachers for our students. So we need to exactly know what's going on with them. And I brought these one also way when we're doing this planning for assessment is to rely your assessment on the Bloom's taxonomy. And I brought Shavatura, who do this publishing in 2018, explaining of, doing an explanation of how to use Bloom's taxonomy to consider the process of learning. And I brought this summary. It says, before you can understand a concept, you must remember it first. If you remember this concept, okay, to apply this concept, now you must first understand it. So in order to evaluate a process, you must have analyzed it. And to create an accurate conclusion, you must have completed a thorough evaluation. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing going on for students. It's not just a matter of doing an evaluation of something. In order to come with a thorough evaluation or an accurate conclusion, we need a complete thorough evaluation of what the students have done in the whole process, similar to what Roxana is doing with her students in her academy. Okay, it's not just a matter of doing it at the end. We set our grades to be in percentages that does not affect the students, the exams. The exams are just the percent of the total grade. But by doing the formative part, they will pass automatically. If they fulfill the formative part, they will pass, even if they get a 0 in the exam. So what we're evaluating, or what we're actually assessing, is the process of knowledge or learning, not the final product. And it has worked with us. 100% of our students finish our programs with a B2, C1 level. I mean, we need, it was reduced to a B1 by the Consejo de Educación Superior, the head of the universities here, the level of English for universities to a B1. We didn't lower it down because most of our students get scholarships to do master's degree and PhDs in the United States or in Europe. So it's not that with a B1 they can access those universities, especially if they're top ranked. So we continue with a high level of English to pass our program. It's an 80 over 120 on the TOEFL test. And our students are finishing our programs with B2, and we have like around a 15% of them ending with a C1. We have students getting 107, 108, 105 over 120, which are really high numbers. And I think this is because of the great team that we have and the effort that they make every single day on trying to have their students achieve the main goals of our program. Now, these are the types of assessments or what we can do in these critical times. I have reduced this into 5 categories, okay? Or 5 things. Time-limited online exams. We need to move from the physical time-limited exam to the online time-limited exam. This is the closest we get to traditional exams, and it consists of making the exam questions available on the institution virtual learning environments, Moodle, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, or any other platform. It takes time. Of course, it takes a lot of time. But once it's there, the Moodle platform or the other platforms will help you shuffle the questions and answers, and will make different exams for you every time you use them. It has pros, it has cons. Some cons might be if you're teaching internationally, the time zones. There are other things also there that we need to take into account. But basically, this is what most of the teachers are doing, time-limited online exams. Take-home assessments. The take-home assessments, I know they are already home, but this is the technical name that it's used for discussions or essay-based exams. And this is what we have basically turned into. We move to a lot of discussion, a lot of essays, a lot of writing activities, a lot of speaking activities. So we move from asking technical theory questions to developing their knowledge of English. So we actually, for the midterm, most of the exams were canceled and they were moved to a different type of exams. Some teachers have been actually grabbed the same TOEFL IBT system of dividing the 4 skills and evaluating the 4 skills, and this turned out to be easier than just doing the normal typical exam. I'm gonna give you all the tips and things that my teachers have done. But students have in this take-home assessments potentially several weeks to complete the task, and also they students to make an informed judgment about a specific topic. They can they will have more time, and they will have also they can use more resources in order to do their assignments. Now you can tell me, yes, Dennis, but they can use they can pay someone to do the assignment, or they can have another person to do it, or blah blah blah. Well, what is really, really important here is how you're going to evaluate them. If you're going to tell them to do something that anyone can do, like, okay, we're going to talk about the history of the United States, for example, and I want a definition, what happened here, anyone can do that. So we need to focus on reflection. We need to focus on critical thinking. We need to focus on having students develop their knowledge. Use the high order skills of the Bloom's taxonomy in order to have students do their assignments. Don't give them assignments or assessments that are too difficult, too broad, because then you are forcing them or some of them to look for help in another place. Don't make these evaluations or these tests too challenging that they can't do it, and they need to look for other types of help. So these two things, and I've been reading a lot about this, and even though we think that face-to-face classes are more secure because you're there and the teacher is, physical presence and he can control cheating, well, according to, I don't remember the person right now, but one of the researchers that I read yesterday, he said that the percentage of copying inside class is huge. Actually, it's even though we think they're not doing it, they're cheating a lot. So moving to online, it's actually, you can control it a little bit more. There is software and there's other things that we can do, which I'm gonna share in a moment, but I wanted to talk about this. And as I said, this is the component that we're doing the most, the take-home assessment. Online oral examinations. Students are questioned about selected parts of the syllabus through Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, what we're doing right now, okay? And so we do this, and I'm gonna say exactly what the teachers are doing and how they're cutting these things, and they're creating particular rooms and all this. So I will also share that with all of you, okay? So online oral examinations is something that we have been doing. An additional note on cheating. Well, we have it already in our curriculum, in a syllabus. Every time we begin a semester, this is posted to every student. They know our policies about cheating, plagiarism, and all this. So for them, it's really, really difficult. If they do it and they're caught, first time they get a 0, second time they're punished, third time they're out of the university. It's as simple as that. And English is part of the curriculum of the Maya of the university. So it has the same settings as the rest of the subjects: chemistry, calculus, physics, nanotechnology. It's exactly the same weight. So students know that if they're caught cheating, they are into big problems, okay? Burnett on 2020 suggests that for almost all types of misconduct, students believe the primary motive for engaging in malpractice is a lack of motivation or laziness, generally followed by a lack of engagement with the course. And this normally happens when the task is too challenging, okay? And the last part, Lourdes was asking this, cancel it, okay? This was the first one into this information that I gathered. Cancel it was the first one. I put it as the last one because it's not normal here. I mean, in Ecuador, I'm pretty sure in Peru too, but it's not normal to cancel the final exam. But if you realize that through the whole process, you have assessed your students and that they know. And how do you know that they know? Because you have been evaluating them through essays, through debates, through discussion, through TOEFL-based exams or tests. You know they know, as simple as that. If you send them an essay or you do a debate and you see the students' development, then you know if the students have learned or not what you have taught. And then the final exam can be just simply canceled. These are 5 general tips that we can talk about assessment. Assessment determine what is or isn't working in the remote environment, so educators can also retool and ensure students get the support needed. Not every student is going to be able to handle remote learning environments the same. Families may not be able to provide the additional support their children need right now. And this is the part in which we also need to reflect as teachers, because we as teachers must examine their purposes, establish priorities, and decide what is truly most important, okay? We need to think from the student's point of view, not from our curriculum point of view or from our teacher's point of view, which was what happened to some of my teachers when we had to evaluate. Then they realized that they were doing wrong, and they reconsidered, and we came up and we survived this semester doing a good job. We're going to have a pretty good rate of students passing. So first is the need to encourage and support student learning, which is what we are here for. student learning. And the second is the need to document and quantify student learning for the purposes of accountability. Because now we're doing this online. We don't have the physical test anymore, but we have online documents or online settings. We can record these classes like Jaime is doing right now. We record our students' online oral examinations. And some people have said, in these times of COVID-19 or pandemics, we should not be creative. We should not innovate. It's hard. I have heard that from a lot of people. It's hard. Just focus on trying to survive. No, it's not like that. Okay, it's not like that. We need to continue being creative. We need to continue to innovate, educationally speaking. We need to do this. And what was the reason why I invited Carolina? This is Carolina. I don't know if you saw her. Carolina Espinosa is a teacher from 5th grade in Playas here in Ecuador. She became famous last week because of this. Somebody did this picture and she's carrying a board. And what she's doing is she's going to her students' classes, students who do not have connections to internet or computers. So nobody forced her to do this. Nobody forced her to go to her students' classes, but she did. And now she is everywhere in all the newspapers here in Ecuador. And this is what she's doing. She is teaching to her students every in the afternoons. I'm gonna let her speak. She's gonna speak about this in Spanish. And what I brought her here is because for me, this is when I realized that I feel great to be a teacher. Because during these last weeks, we have been treated very, very badly here in Ecuador. We have seen a lot of corruption, millions of dollars being taken by corruption. And teachers have been reduced their salaries. Some of them have been fired, while the assembly and other politicians are still getting their money. My teachers are going to be reduced, their salaries are going to be reduced. And even though of all this effort and all this work, we are not being recognized by anyone here in this country. And these type of things, like what Carolina is doing, and I'm going to switch to Spanish so she can also understand. Carolina, ya estoy hablando de ti, y les comentaba a todos los presentes de la importancia que tiene para cada uno de nosotros como docentes lo que tú estás haciendo. ¿Estás conectada, Carolina? ¿Nos escuchas?
Así es, nos escucho muy bien.
Perfecto. Y les decía de lo orgulloso que me siento como docente, después de todo el maltrato que hemos sentido en el último mes por parte del gobierno nacional, del Ministerio de Educación, de la CENESID y del CES, en el caso de las universidades, de que una docente como tú, de una institución pública humilde de la provincia de Guayas, específicamente de Playas, haya hecho lo que haya hecho, es lo que nos hace sentir bien como docentes. Me comentabas de que tenías una entrevista con la gente de China. Sé que te has hecho famosa porque veo que fuiste incluso trending en diferentes redes sociales. Vuelvo y te repito, yo a ella la contacté ayer, busqué las fotos porque quería compartir esto. Esto nos da esperanza como docentes. Esto le da esperanza a nuestros pueblos golpeados de Latinoamérica, donde la corrupción es tan grande que lastima lo más importante que tiene el futuro de cada país, que son los niños. Y cuando vemos a una profesora que después de haber trabajado todo el día, coge su bicicleta y se va en bicicleta a la casa de los estudiantes de escasos recursos a darles clase para que no se queden marginados de la educación, algo que el gobierno en este país no está haciendo, es el momento cuando tenemos que darnos cuenta de que hay gente buena en este mundo y de que hay gente que realmente está haciendo un cambio. Carolina, te doy el paso para que de pronto converses un poquito de tu historia, qué te motivó a hacerlo, y para que los profesores que están ahorita conectados acá, que no sabían que ibas a venir, pues puedan también saber un poquito de lo que has hecho.
Bueno, compañeros, muy buenos días. ¿Sí me escuchan?
Sí, perfecto.
Buenos días, compañeros, con todos. Los llamo compañeros, aunque no los conozco, pero nos incluimos en la docencia. Es para mí un orgullo entrar aquí en este pase que me ha dado el compañero Dennys. Gracias primero por invitarme. Segundo, pues, ¿qué he sentido como maestra? Siempre lo he dicho en todas las entrevistas, no hay nada mejor que hacer las cosas por voluntad propia, porque uno ama su trabajo, que lo hago yo por vocación. Sabemos, como lo acababa de decir Dennys, sabemos que tenemos un gobierno, un régimen con 2 meses casi sin sueldo, pero tenemos que seguir porque ellos no tienen la culpa. La niñez de Ecuador no tiene la culpa de tener un presidente de pronto que no realiza como debe realizar sus obligaciones y cumplirlas, como nosotros los docentes trabajamos y cumplimos. Esto para mí ha causado mucha nostalgia. Nunca esperé que se fuera a ser tan viral. Se ha hecho viral porque soy la única docente a nivel de Guayas que lo ha realizado. De pronto sí haya muchos docentes que lo hagan. De pronto cogen su carro, cogen su moto y van a buscar al estudiante. Pero el fin no termina ahí, en coger una ficha, ir a dejar a la casa del estudiante, tenga, y se retira. Hay que explicar todo lo que se va a dar. El estudiante no va a entender si yo voy y le dejo la ficha, tenga Carlitos, me voy. No, hay que explicar, y es por eso que yo llevo mi pizarra para poder desarrollar y explicar al estudiante. Casa por casa, sí es verdad, porque no todos cuentan con la tecnología, como estaba viendo la UNESCO, ha sacado un valor de 826.000, alguien sacó esa diapositiva hoy, que no tienen, 826 millones, que no tienen acceso a la tecnología. Me imagino que estamos hablando a nivel mundial, porque aquí en playas la mayoría no cuenta con ese dispositivo, ni tampoco con alcance de internet. Es penoso lo que está viviendo realmente el Ecuador en esta época de crisis. Tuvo que llegar el coronavirus a Ecuador y a todo el mundo para que realmente utilicemos las tecnologías como deberíamos hacerlo. Nos vemos ahora en la necesidad de aprender totalmente para poder impartir y llegar a nuestros estudiantes. Se ha hecho difícil para la mayoría de docentes, pero tenemos que aprender y no darnos por vencidos, porque ese es el mayor logro que podemos hacer. Siempre pensando en la niñez. Ellos no tienen la culpa de un gobierno impuntual, no tienen la culpa de lo que está sucediendo realmente. Ellos no pueden atrasarse. La educación tiene que continuar. Invito a todos mis compañeros docentes, de pronto que imparten clases en diferentes sectores, médicos, abogados, se unan a hacer su trabajo al 100%, ya que es la única recompensa que ustedes pueden tener cuando hacen su trabajo completo. Es satisfactorio totalmente para mí, me llena a ir a mi bicicleta con mi pizarra y buscar a los estudiantes. Es verdad, llegó el vicepresidente de la República aquí a mi humilde casa, me condecoró con una placa de heroína, de héroe. Realmente la placa quedó guardada porque no la voy a utilizar. La placa no me hace grande a mí. Quizás otra persona con la placa del vicepresidente hubiera hecho una fiesta, pero Carolina no. Carolina guardó la placa y salió con su bicicleta cuando se fue el presidente a buscar, porque me faltaban 2 niños más. La placa a mí no me hace. Yo no quiero agradecimientos de presidente, de vicepresidentes, del pueblo. Quiero el agradecimiento de un niño. Lo mejor que puede haber en el ser humano es que un niño te diga: gracias por lo que has hecho por mí, profesor. Gracias por venirme a ver, licenciado. Gracias, te agradezco mucho. Vuelva pronto. Si viene mañana, qué alegría. Mañana estoy aquí. Es lo mejor, porque un niño te cambia la vida y sabes que ese agradecimiento es el más sincero que pudiste haber obtenido. Él te lo dice de verdad, sin hipocresía, sin mentira. Es el amor real que te puede demostrar un niño. Dennys, te doy paso a alguna pregunta que me quieras hacer.
Gracias Carolina. Quería compartir esto con ustedes, no sé si lo habían visto en las noticias, pero bueno, ayer mientras revisaba la foto en Diario El Universo, vi el correo de Carolina y decidí, bueno, dije, bueno, voy a escribirle a ver si de pronto quiere unirse a este grupo de docentes internacionales para conversar acerca de la educación. Porque esta es mi cuarta presentación que he tenido ahora en la época del COVID. Y realmente uno de los temas que veo es que algunos de los profesores, con todo este maltrato y con todos estos problemas que hemos tenido, se han dejado caer los brazos y se han dejado vencer. Y por eso empecé con el quote de Charles Darwin, y voy a terminar con el quote de una de mis profesoras, Gabriela Portilla, acerca del cambio, ¿no? Que siempre las especies es la que más se adapta al cambio, la que sobrevive. Y recuerden que Charles Darwin sacó esto cuando estuvo en nuestras Islas Galápagos. Y es eso, o sea, esto es un tema al igual que le pasó a Carolina, nosotros pasamos de un formato a otro, hemos hecho algunos cambios, hemos estado ayudando a algunos docentes que nos han pedido ayuda con la experiencia que tenemos. Todo esto obviamente en silencio, ¿no? Porque nunca no necesitamos ni la prensa ni nadie que nos premie, y más bien en vez de premiarnos, lo que ha sucedido es que de alguna manera nos han castigado. Pero eso no reduce ni va a lastimar el cariño que tenemos hacia lo que hacemos. Y era la razón por la que invité a Carolina el día de hoy. Quería que comparta su historia, quería que ustedes, compañeros, algunos los conozco y los quiero mucho, de los que estoy viendo, y quería que conozcan de la voz de ella lo que está haciendo, ¿no? Todo este sentir de coger y salir de su casa en una bicicleta con un pizarrón y llevarle las clases a los estudiantes es algo muy loable. Jaime, no sé si alguno quiera preguntarle algo a Carolina.
Pues todo el mundo quiere comentar, Dennys, y transmitirle a Carolina nuestro orgullo, al igual que varios de aquí hemos sentido algo en el corazón que nos ha apretado y nos ha hecho sentir hasta un poco de vergüenza, diría yo, porque nosotros estamos en toda la comodidad de nuestro hogar y no hemos hecho, ni creo que habíamos pensado en hacer lo que tú has hecho. Efectivamente, vi la foto, pero no sabía que había sido en Ecuador. Mira, aquí todos te ponen, te agradecemos, te admiramos, mucho orgullo por ti, muy inspirador. Efectivamente, el reconocimiento que te pueda dar tu gobierno no queda en nada si la situación de la educación, de los salarios y el trato a usted, los profesores, sigue igual. De nada servirá la condecoración, etcétera, etcétera, pero créenos, Carolina, que has logrado inspirar a todos los 40, 50 profesores que estamos aquí reunidos, y a nombre de todos ellos queremos expresarte nuestro reconocimiento. Eres un orgullo para la clase trabajadora de los profesores, para todos. Ha habido hasta uno de ellos, te lo comento, que tuvo que apagar su cámara porque por sus propias palabras es muy, muy conmovedor tu historia y nos hace sentir pues nada, de nada sirve todos nuestros títulos, nuestros estudios, nuestras ganas si no llegamos a hacer tal trabajo que tú nos has enseñado, que debemos ir más allá de nuestra casa, más allá de la comodidad que podamos tener, y realmente eres un orgullo, no solamente para Ecuador, sino para nosotros los profesores. Muchas gracias, Dennys, realmente, por haber traído a Carolina, y la mejor de las suertes y las bendiciones para ti, Carolina.
Gracias. Mi intención, Ton Colles, no era hacerte llorar. Mi intención era, pues, venir y alegrarlos un poco. No quiero poner melancólicos a nadie, pero sabemos que la niñez es el futuro de la patria y tenemos que ayudar a educarla. Tenemos que ayudar a educarla sin pensar en el gobierno, porque sabemos lo que pasa con el gobierno. Sabemos que los meses tenemos, como ya lo repetí, impagos. Vuelvo y repito, ellos no tienen la culpa del régimen que escogimos. Las cosas pasan, el tiempo pasa. Algún día mis estudiantes me recordarán que fue la profesora Carolina a visitarlos en pandemia. Me preguntan muchas veces si no tengo miedo a contaminarme, si no tengo miedo a enfermarme. Por supuesto que tengo miedo porque soy ser humano. Me da miedo. Claro que sí, pero más miedo me daría dejar a ese estudiante sin educación. Más miedo me daría que el estudiante crezca y diga, estuve 2 meses porque los profesores no les pagaron, no vinieron a buscarme ni a enseñarme nada. Entonces me dolería más que un estudiante me diga, ningún estudiante de mi clase, de mis aulas, imparto en 2 aulas, legalmente me toca un aula, pero el otro aula la profesora está destituida porque no pasó el quiero ser maestro, no lo aprobó, entonces yo le pedí a la directora que yo tomaba esa aula virtual y ahora son también mis hijos y tengo 85 estudiantes en 2 clases horario virtual y aparte de eso, cuando no los veo en cámara, pues corro mi bicicleta a buscarlos desesperadamente. Y le he puesto mi bicicleta a un pito. Entonces, cuando ya llego a la casa, yo aplasto el pito y ellos con una emoción tremenda, licenciada, llegó mi señorita, llegó. A veces me dicen, pensé que no iba a llegar, y le digo, sí, mijo, tú sabes que voy a llegar, si no es que a veces voy en una casa, voy a otra, entonces, pero tú sabes que tengo que llegar. Entonces, así me toca todos los días, como les dije, llegó el vicepresidente, me condecoró, dejé la condecoración ahí y salí. Se acabaron los medios, se acabó todo, se acabó, y corrí con mi pizarra otra vez porque me faltaban 2 estudiantes. Y no quería que ellos piensen que yo quiero cámaras, yo no quiero cámaras. Entonces, pero si licenciada, la acabo de ver ahorita a usted que dicen que en la televisión salió, sí, mijito, pero yo estoy aquí. Vine por ti porque ayer no pude venir. A veces tengo estudiantes con discapacidad, síndrome de Down, discapacidad auditiva. Cuando voy a visitarlos me toca recorrer muchísimo para irlos a visitar y me he encontrado muchas veces con que me dice la mamá, el niño se quedó dormido. ¡Qué barbaridad, Dios mío! A veces digo, correr tanto para que me diga, está dormido. Y le digo, ¿y en qué tiempo despierta? Y dice, cuando se queda dormido son 2 horas, señorita. Le digo, esas 2 horas puedo ir a otra casa. Le digo, entonces mañana vengo. Y al otro día también hago el otro recorrido, de nuevo por ese niño que estaba dormido el día anterior. Entonces, mi amor a mi trabajo es lo que me ha llevado a traspasar se puede decir, fronteras, de ir a otros países, con mi mensaje a los compañeros docentes que hagamos nuestro trabajo al 100%. Yo puedo dormir tranquila, si duermo 2 horas, duermo profundamente tranquila, sueño con ángeles, sueño con lo más lindo, no tengo pesadillas alguna, porque mi conciencia está tranquila. Es verdad que tenemos que morirnos todos, eso nadie lo puede negar, pero moriré feliz porque he hecho mi trabajo completo. Yo siempre decía, yo he pasado todo, he pasado muchas cosas, pero ¿qué más quiere Dios conmigo? ¿Qué quiere Él? ¿Para qué me tiene aquí? Siento que me tiene para algo. Pues a mis 40 años me vine a dar cuenta ahora en pandemia para qué ha sido que Él me tiene todavía aquí. Y no me he enfermado, gracias a Dios, ninguna de mi familia. Cuando llego pues a la casa tengo que dejar mi bicicleta, limpiarla, asearla toda, con deja, cloro, absolutamente, mis zapatos, toda mi ropa queda afuera. Mis hijos por la ventana me sacan el deja, me sacan el detergente, el jabón, nadie me quiere como un zombie que ha llegado, ¿no? Tengo que asearme toda y espero un rato y después ingresar a casa. Con la bendición de Dios hasta ahorita no me ha pasado nada. Trato de mis estudiantes también cuando voy a visitarlos y no tienen mascarilla, yo las coso las mascarillas por la noche con unas telitas dobles, le pongo el elástico y cuando voy a visitarlos y no tienen mascarilla, pues yo para que atiendan mi clase tengo que darles las mascarillas que yo les voy a obsequiar. Llevo siempre mascarilla en mi canasta de mi bicicleta, siempre llevo mascarillas para dárselas cosidas por las manos de su hija profesora.
Muchas gracias, Carolina. Brevemente, Susi quiere darte unas palabras. Susi, Roxana.
¿Vieron el rosario?
Susi o Roxana, una de las dos levantó la mano.
Sí, claro. Carolina, en nombre de toda la Asociación Educativa de todos los países latinoamericanos y del mundo, muchísimas gracias por ser como eres. Dios no va a permitir que te enfermes. Ángeles como tú, necesitamos muchos en el país, en el mundo. Muchísimas gracias. Yo sé que la forma de recibir pago es a través de nuestros alumnos. Los profesores, en general, estamos dedicados a la docencia. docencia por vocación. Y tú eres un ejemplo de esa vocación. Definitivamente se necesita dinero para vivir, pero un sueldo realmente no nos hace más o menos profesores. Es realmente, me siento conmovida con no solamente saber de la existencia de alguien, sino escucharlo directamente. Muchas gracias, Dennys, por esta oportunidad. Realmente muy, muy agradecida de saber que alguien, un alma como tú existe. Tú eres un ángel para tu comunidad. Tú eres un ángel para nosotros. Eres un ejemplo para seguir, para imitar, para hablar de ti. Sabemos que no es fácil lo que llevas, pero tienes una fuerza especial. Tienes algo interno que no tenemos los demás que tú tienes. Dios te ha escogido. Y como tú dices, tú tenías una misión, ya está clara cuál es tu misión. No es simplemente enseñar, sino compartir, el dedicarte, el querer a tus niños, como tú los llamas, ¿no? En la sesión que hemos tenido hoy día, alguien habló, tengo 35, 40 alumnos por clase. Gracias a Dios, tenemos 35, 40 alumnos por clase. Hay que cambiar, innovadores, creativos, pero flexibles y agradecidos. Si tenemos alumnos, gracias a Dios que tenemos esos alumnos en nuestras manos para convertir, para formar, para amar. Son niños que nos necesitan. Hemos hablado mucho de evaluación y criterios de mantenimiento, pero todo eso queda de lado. Realmente toda la parte instructiva, toda la parte formativa queda de lado cuando la parte de emoción, la persona, el ser humano, no existe. Alguien como tú no necesita ni criterios de evaluación, ni criterios de assessment, ni nada, sino lo que tú eres. El ir con tu pizarrita, el ir por bicicleta, el exponer tu vida, a pesar de que tienes tu familia, un niño, es todo tu deseo y todo tu objetivo de clase. Agradecida infinitamente, Carolina, por haberte escuchado, por haberte oído, por conocerte. Será mi función acá hablar de ti, en mi país, Lima, Perú, y multiplicar esto. Cada uno tendrá una función. Muchísimas gracias, Carolina. Dios te bendiga. Te mantenga sana.
Gracias, Roxana. Dennys, si Roxana desea mi número de teléfono, se lo puedes pasar con absoluto...
Muchas gracias. Tenemos un grupo de WhatsApp donde están profesores de algunos países, que es lo que maneja Jaime. Jaime es de la Universidad de Piura, en Perú. Él me ha invitado a algunas conferencias y congresos. Nos conocemos desde el Congreso de COPEI en el 2017. Desde ahí hemos hecho una gran amistad y comenzamos a movernos, él para acá, yo para allá, y pues él ha estado en eventos acá en la Universidad de Chaitec, y yo he ido a la Universidad de Piura. Cuando fui director de COPEI, él vino a presentar a COPEI, y ahí fue donde lo conocí. En todo caso, él es de Piura, de la Universidad de Piura en Perú, ¿no? Y aquí hay algunos compañeros. Jaime.
Tú me pasas su teléfono, Carolina, y la agregamos al grupo, y seguro que tendrás muchos compañeros en toda Latinoamérica, Carolina. Muchísimas gracias. Nuevamente.
Gracias.
Hoy día creo que dormirás mucho más tranquila con tantos amigos nuevos que has conocido. Gracias, Carolina.
Muchas gracias por esa amistad. Para mí la amistad es algo muy importante también. Tengo muchos amigos aquí en mi cantón, en Ecuador, totalmente me escriben. Ahora tengo más amigos que antes, y de todos mis amigos trato de ayudarlos. Como ustedes verán, también en cuarentena abrí un canal de YouTube para poder compartir muchas cosas de pronto de tecnología, como es el Zoom, con la herramienta que nos manejamos acá, así como ustedes. Entonces, me gusta mucho la tecnología, y trato de compartir también con mis compañeros cómo compartir pantalla, porque sabes que esto nos cogió así, no sabíamos absolutamente, estábamos quedados, ¿no? Cómo compartir pantalla aprendió rápido Carolina. Hacía videos y se los pasaba a mis compañeros, cómo compartir, cómo poner un fondo, porque atrás mío también puedo tener, si doy una clase de ciencias naturales, puedo tener atrás mío una selva. Entonces el estudiante se va a distraer totalmente y va a entender todo lo que tengo atrás mío, sin necesidad de abrir una diapositiva. Entonces todas esas cositas pequeñas, cómo compartir el parlante, el control a otra persona, ¿no? También es muy importante. Todas esas cositas he podido aprender rápido y compartir a mis compañeros. Me siento satisfactoria cuando me llama a una escuela, una rectora y me dice, Carolina, ¿nos puedes enseñar algo de Zoom? Por supuesto, estamos en línea todos los 40 docentes, Carolina, ayúdanos. Ya, en este momento. Plataforma Team, Carolina, queremos agregar los estudiantes, queremos hacer ya. Ya le ayudo, rectora, aunque no sea de mi institución, lo he hecho muchas veces y los compañeros muy agradecidos. Así que Dennys, el que me invitó a esta sala, pues puede compartir mi teléfono en el grupo a los demás compañeros para podernos así interactuar conocimientos. La Universidad Casa Grande de Ecuador, que me llamó hace 2 días, me va a dar lo que siempre he soñado y no he podido nunca, la beca para seguir la maestría en tecnología en innovación educativa. Agradecí mucho y me van a venir el martes a entregarme la beca. Eso es algo muy satisfactorio para mí. Hubiera querido que el vicepresidente, en vez de el cuadro de honor, me hubiera dejado por lo menos unas 3 tablets para mis estudiantes con discapacidad. Claro. Me hubiera gustado mucho, pero lamentablemente son protocolos que ellos llevan como autoridades y yo soy una persona muy respetuosa en ese sentido.
Sí, aquí incluso de la Universidad Casa Grande, aquí tenemos algunos amigos y amigas con Jaime, hemos compartido también reuniones y conferencias con algunos de ellos. Qué bueno que te hayan dado esa beca, porque a veces queda todo en un simple agradecimiento, en el momento mediático, pero no va mucho más allá de eso. Quería agradecerte, porque recién ayer te escribí en la noche, me contestaste y me dijiste, perfecto, me conecto. Y realmente quería compartir esto contigo. Jaime es parte de algunos grupos de docentes a nivel internacional de algunos países del mundo y quería que fueras parte de eso, porque ese espíritu y esa vocación que has tenido para la educación es importante de que la compartas y que también nosotros podamos compartir contigo nuestras experiencias que hemos tenido a nivel de academias, de universidades, de escuelas, de colegios, de institutos técnicos superior, para que de esa manera todos nos llenemos de riquezas del uno y del otro, ¿no? Esto es un camino de doble vía. Recibes y das. Y quería pues que seas parte de esto. Sabes que estoy a las órdenes para lo que necesites. Ya tienes mi correo electrónico, tienes mi número de celular. Y cómo se llama, lo que necesites de nosotros, apoyo técnico, apoyo en conocimiento, en experiencia, podemos dártelo, no hay ningún inconveniente por ese lado, Carolina, y también pues te vamos a emitir un certificado de presentación. Sé que necesitamos por el tema de las categorizaciones y todo eso. El día lunes, el día de mañana le digo a mi asistente para que te lo elabore, por haber sido co-presentadora de esta charla conmigo. Ya hablaremos con Jaime a ver si también nos puede enviar un certificado de su universidad para acá, para que también tengas un certificado internacional de presentadora de esta charla, pues que también ha sido parte de la misma. Agradecerte nuevamente, me motivaste muchísimo, vi tu historia, realmente se me salieron las lágrimas. En estos momentos duros que estamos pasando todos, fue un poquito de relief.
Tocar el corazón de los seres humanos es lo mejor, porque si tú sientes algo en tu corazón, es porque tú también puedes hacerlo, Si se te mueve tu corazón, se te sale una lágrima cuando ves el trabajo de Carolina, es porque tú eres un buen ser humano. Y sé que Roxana y muchos de los que están aquí, Tom, que todavía sigue llorando en la cámara, sé que todos lo pueden hacer, y yo los invito a que den su 100% de su trabajo. No hay nada más fructífero en la vida que trabajar sus horas completas y pasarse. Mi trabajo es hasta la 1 de la tarde, pero yo a la 1 de la tarde ya no estoy aquí. En playas de Villamil hace absolutamente una calor terrible, hace un sol, algo de grado de temperatura es muy alto, porque vivimos a un perfil costero, pero eso no me limita. Es verdad que a veces me ahogo manejando la bicicleta, parece que no puedo respirar, porque manejar una bicicleta con una mascarilla es horrible, es totalmente difícil. A veces me siento en una vereda donde no me vean los niños, claro, me siento y yo digo, ¿hasta cuándo voy a hacer esto? Pero sé que tengo que continuar porque hay tal personita pequeñita que me está esperando a un lado. Yo los invito a ustedes, compañeros docentes, den su trabajo al 100%, es lo mejor, se van a sentir plenamente con todo ustedes, porque fácil se le haría a Carolina terminar a la 1 de la tarde en cámara y coger y apagar el computador y el que se conectó bien y el que no también. Así no trabaja Carolina. Carolina es otro ser humano muy diferente. Entonces, por eso Carolina ha pasado a ser de nacional a internacional por su corazón y su vocación, que yo sé que muchos de ustedes lo tienen, sino que de pronto les falta sacar esas ganas que tenemos por dentro. No podemos hacerlo, no importa nuestra edad, no importa nada. Dejemos sembrada una semilla ahora, porque ahora podemos. Mañana ya no, porque quizás mañana no estemos, pero el nombre de ustedes quedará sembrado en esos corazones y en esas mentes de esa niñez que crecerán y le dirán a sus hijos, aquí andaba la profesora Carolina en pandemia, y ahora después de 100 años hay otra pandemia, pero ya no hay Carolina.
Rápidamente, Carolina, Susi, que está pidiendo hace rato unas pequeñas palabras breves, sucintas y concisas.
Susi.
Sí, muy buenos saludos para todos. Pues yo estoy ubicada aquí en Amazonía, pues de aquí de nuestro querido Ecuador. Primeramente, unas felicitaciones, Carolina, por tu trabajo, porque realmente ha permitido de que cada uno nos motivemos. Al inicio de nuestros estudios como maestros, cada uno entramos con ese ímpetu de dejar una huella y de formar seres humanos, que es lo que tú estás haciendo. Entonces, realmente debemos ir allá, compañeros, de niveles de colegio, de escuelas, realmente tenemos que ir allá.
Susi, creo que hay un problema con el audio porque no te puedo escuchar bien, Susi.
No, ¿ahí me puedes escuchar? ¿Ya?
Ahí sí, ahí sí.
Entonces, sí, realmente nos has dado la motivación de la formación de los seres humanos. Allá vamos. ¿Quiénes son? ¿Qué es lo que nosotros tenemos que formar? Es eso, todos los valores importantes, los valores que tú tienes, de seguir adelante, de seguir luchando y de que a pesar de la adversidad, nosotros sigamos adelante y que formemos a sí mismos chicos así. Presente, problema que se le presente, y que ellos puedan superar. Ahí vamos, a eso va la educación, de que nuestros estudiantes, nuestros jóvenes, nuestros niños sean capaces de afrontar cualquier reto en la vida como lo tú estás haciendo, adaptándose a los medios que se nos vengan. Por lo tanto, también nos permites reflexionar, a la reflexión de qué lugar tenemos nosotros en la educación, qué lugar tenemos nosotros en el mundo, tenemos nosotros en la vida. Entonces vas mucho más allá con esa parte reflexiva que me parece muy buena, muy buena. Gracias a todos también les doy a cada una de las personas, igual no las conozco, muchos somos los que nos hemos quedado afuera por esta situación, pero aún así nos motivas de que tenemos que los tiempos malos pasarán, vendrán tiempos buenos. Muchas gracias a todos.
Gracias nuevamente, Carolina.
Sí.
Gracias, Jaime, por tu invitación. Me tengo que retirar porque, como saben, tengo muchos medios. Como le dije a Jaime, tengo también una agencia china que quiere mi entrevista para motivar, así como estoy motivando a ustedes. Todo lo hago de corazón y lo hago, como dijo Susi, para construir seres humanos. Dennys, ha sido un orgullo, me siento placentera aquí, me gustaría quedarme una tarde, ojalá me invites otro día, con mucho gusto. Compañeros, me despido, un abrazo inmenso, un abrazo virtual, esperando que nos sumemos todos. Que Dios me los bendiga.
Te invitaremos, Carolina, te invitaremos a una charla solo para ti.
Ok, Dennys, un abrazo a todos, los quiero, bendiciones, Dios me los bendiga, este grupo hermoso. Amén.
Muchas gracias, Carolina.
Cuídate, Carolina.
Gracias, Carolina. Un abrazo.
Muchas gracias, Carolina.
Gracias, Carolina.
Gracias, Carolina.
Well, let's go back to English now.
We got just some time.
Yes. I'm actually finishing. That was the last part. And this is the quote that I wanted to share with you guys. Adapting to change, evolve, adapt, change, survive. if you're flexible and always adapt to the new challenges, you will always do a good job and be fine. If you just focus on complaining and seeing the buts, you will end up hurting yourself. This is what one of my teachers is just always saying this. And whenever we have a situation or things are coming, she just adapts, evolves, and goes on. The last part about this presentation was sharing with you guys the what teachers were doing. And I'm opening the file so I can share this. Okay, so let me put this here. And one of my teachers from level 3, this is B1, the beginning of B1 teacher. She says, I have set up Google Forms in such a way that students have a randomized order of questions and order of answers in each question with a limited and short time to answer, multiple choice. This is what we talked about, time limit online tests. In the midterm, I added a time limited test for each section at a specific time. Each one, for example, listening from 4:15 to 4:25, reading from 4:30 to 4:50, and so on. And if for some reason they do not submit on time, the test will automatically close with the answers they have. The third thing she did was I have used añade una actividad o recurso on Moodle platform. I selected the option cuestionario to add a test. In this format, I deactivated all the options in opciones de revisión so that they are not able to check the correct or incorrect answers. Moreover, in the same test, I activated the option ventana emergente a pantalla completa con seguridad JavaScript under seguridad del navegador. It blocks the possibility to copy and paste. I'm going to share this PDF with Jaime so Jaime can share all this information with all of you, okay? 4, in writing, I have told my students to open a Google Sheet Word document and share it with me so that I'm able to monitor if they are typing or copying and pasting. It is important to point out that it has been necessary to use plagiarism checkers to make sure the writing is original. Another teacher from level 3, he says, in listening, I use Google Forms for listening exercises. I set out the specific time between 10 to 15 minutes. I send the audio files to my students 5 minutes before they start their assessment. There are some students whose internet connection is not so good. That's why I send them the audio files to be downloaded. So then I send them the link of the listening exercises. In speaking, I do something similar to the TOEFL exam. I divide the class in groups. Each group has different questions. I project the questions on the screen. I read the questions out for them. Then they have 1 minute to write an outline for their speaking. Depending on the type of the question, they have 2 or 3 minutes to answer each question. They record their voices. Finally, they send me the recordings to my email. Reading and use of English, I use Google Forms or live worksheets with multiple choice exercises. I set up the specific time to complete the exercises. I always design a different exam model version for each group of students, or I vary the order of the exercises. In writing, I send my students the writing topic, the instructions, and the rubric in a Word document. They use Word to write their essay. I set up the specific time to complete the writing exercise. I use free online plagiarism check softwares like plagiarismdetector.net, dupli-checker.com, or smallsealtools.com. Unfortunately, you can only use the softwares to check a certain number of files. I use the demo version. Of course, during their assessment, they have to have their cameras on. And I have more and more tips for you guys to use in different levels, from levels 3 to levels 5. I'm going to share with all of you this PDF so you guys can know exactly where to look, how to activate all the different things they have been using. And you can also, apply some of these experiences in your classes. For example, in our placement test, what we do, we have set groups of 5 students. Instead of evaluating 40 students at the same time, we're evaluating 4 students through Zoom. We send them the link in the moment that we are evaluating those 5 students. And they, of course, they have to have their cameras activated, and we tell them randomly to share their screen with us. So in that way, we are monitoring what they're doing in those computers. Okay, so for example, right now, if we're doing the test, I will go, Jaime, please share your screen. And then Jaime shares his screen, and he continues working, and I'm checking his screen. And then I go, Lourdes, please share your screen. So then Lourdes shares her screen, and so on. So we have been coming up with our own methods. I think most of the world have done it, of trying to evaluate our students in order to have real results. I have more information to share with you guys, but I think it is about time. It's Sunday, and I know you guys want to be with your family. I'm grilling today. Normally it's a Saturday grilling, but I was planning this presentation, so I didn't grill yesterday. I'm doing it today. And I hope my presentation has helped you guys at least to have a better idea of what we're doing. And also, well, I brought Carolina. She will be part of our group from now on. And I think it was good to have someone that is doing what she's doing right now. And this tells us that whatever we think we had problems, it's nothing compared to what she's doing. Playas is not the biggest city of Ecuador. So it's not that millionaires live there. So she's a committed teacher doing her job. And I know you guys are committed too. That's the reason why you guys are here. Otherwise, you could be doing something else, watching TV on a supermarket or somewhere else. I call these teachers the teachers that care for their students, care for their work, care for themselves. And those are the students that go to training sessions, to workshops, and stop doing whatever they can, because we could be doing something else right now, but we're here, we're working, we're sharing information. Jaime, again, thank you very much. I don't know if someone has a question about this.
Yeah, thank you, dear Dennis. Could you please stop sharing the screen so we can see either, that's your...
Yes, that's my email, and you can follow our our Facebook page if you want, and I'm going to send you guys the link to, I'm going to send the copy to Jaime, so Jaime can share it with everyone
Yes,
else.
I will. Well, thank you very much, Dennis, for your time, for your idea of bringing Carolina with us. Now her phone number is in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Maybe somebody, Marilena, hello from Colombia. Hello, nice to see you. This is one of the happiest and saddest moments in my life. Really, I still feel moved and wow, we don't have words to, at the same time we want to say, but at the same time we don't have words to say. That's something incredible. Thank you for such a good idea. I saw the photo, but I just didn't pay attention, and I saw it. Why I didn't read it? And it was from Ecuador. Maybe somebody has a comment. We still have 2, 3, 4 minutes. Yeah, Tom?
First of all, again, Jaime, thank you so much for bringing what a brilliant community together. It's you know, we're all showing that under difficult circumstances that we're all adapting and we're all challenging ourselves. Like, I'd never taught online before, and now it's all a new experience. I'm sure the majority of us hadn't done it before, so we're all here and we're all trying to face it head on. We're not trying to bury our head in the sand. We're trying to go at it head on. And it's just so inspirational that we're all here on a Sunday morning when, as Dennys said, we could be doing whatever, we could be with our families, but we're doing it for the love of our profession and for the love of what a profession means to people of the next generations or the generations. So it was so inspirational to have Carolina on today, and brilliant topic, and something that there's so much more to come, I think. I'd love Dennys you started to touch on some of these things like Google, how Google can randomize the questions. Some of that sounds super useful. But yeah, really inspirational. Didn't expect it to go off in the direction it did. It got rather emotional. Also a learning lesson. Normally I would speak in Spanish because I'm learning Spanish, but I was translating just because I wanted to get my ideas quickly. And as Maria Elena said, I said, Dennys mi amor. Bad translation from Google. So as I should drink my own Kool-Aid, and when I tell my students not to use Google Translate too much, I ended up using it today. So the embarrassment of using Google Translate. So interesting, but thanks again, Jaime. Thanks to Dennys for a fantastic presentation. Thanks for Carolina for coming, but also, of course, thank you for everyone for giving up the time for a growing community from all over the world.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, really. Anybody else before we go to have lunch? Well, it's early. No, it's early, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Okay, if next time, or next Sunday, we will have Inés Muñoz, and
Inés
she will be
Torres.
Inés Torres de Muñoz. I'm so sorry. Inés Torres de Muñoz. She always she always says Inés Torres de Muñoz. I don't know why.
Just in case, just in case.
Okay. So she will be talking about TOEFL Home Edition. So it will be a beautiful presentation. And then we will have, I don't remember, we will have somebody from my friend Mercy Linda from Guatemala. And then, I don't remember her name, my goodness, Milagros from Argentina. She will be talking. Mónica Rodriguez from Argentina. Wow, she will be giving a great, marvelous, something that moves us, feelings. She will be talking about the feelings we are going through during this pandemic. So as you can see, we will have beautiful topics, beautiful people, just like Dennys and Carolina. Somebody else who wants to say something before we go?
I go?
Anybody else?
Isis, how many minutes do we have?
Isis in New York.
How many minutes do we have? 1 minute?
2 Peruvian minutes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, wait. Actually, Jaime, this is the account of the public enterprise from our institution. So it can be open for hours and hours. I know everyone wants to
but
go
don't tell them. Don't tell them.
It's not going to stop. Yes.
I'll take my 2 Peruvian minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Jaime, for always organizing this kind of events. Thank you, Dennys, for sharing your expertise and for bringing Carolina, a very moving story. I just want to share quickly the experience in New York City being the epicenter of the epicenter. So far, of course, that we have poverty in New York City, but so far the Department of Education was able, took 2 months to accomplish that, able to provide tablets to all the students with Watt 5, but it's not a gift, it's a loan. So we don't know what is gonna happen in September. Of course, they're gonna keep those tablets. That's one thing. There are some teachers that are taking their cars and distributing materials to the students. We cannot replicate that experience that Carolina is doing, because that will be defeating the request from the union, El Sindicato, because we actually had 80 educators that passed away because of COVID, between principals, teachers, and actually we were praying for the mayor to close the schools, and it took more than 2 weeks when everywhere else in the United States they were closing the schools. In New York City, we still kept working. So we had that situation. It's sad, but again, Carolina is the story is very moving, and we have tried other ways to help, to support even teachers, because those we have so many teachers that sometimes they were not used to even open their emails. And this COVID-19 and the remote learning experience has been a slap on their faces. So we have been also providing a lot of training and support. There are plenty of tutorials in YouTube, but sometimes teachers were not sure where to start, what to start learning, what app to explore. So at school level, we have been doing that job, providing office hours, providing everyday PDs, no mandated, and then office hours, they come and they are not afraid to ask questions and say, could you repeat this part again one more time? So thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, BR Isis. Okay, we have just one more minute, American minute this time for somebody else who wants to say something. Yeah, please, Edison. Please.
Yeah, just one. Okay, just something that like a strategy or technique is that I ask my students to, as I told you, they are true beginners and false beginners, and we are working with A1 levels. And so what I do is that I sometimes post 5 questions, 6 questions, and they have to answer those questions and send me via WhatsApp. And then that way I also can see attendance, can check attendance. So it's not as they are learning very simple. They are in the basics of this. WhatsApp has helped me, okay? So I share with them my phone number, and then I do that. It's one way to check attendance and also to check common mistakes or things like that, and start from there for my next class. And thank you for the opportunity to meet Carolina.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for being here. And we have a new attendee. He's with Tom. What's his name? Tom?
It's Annie.
My goodness, I'm sure this is the first webinar all over the world attended by a dog.
She was getting jealous and she wanted some attention.
Very good. Now everybody. Thank you. Okay, final words, Dennys, and we'll be over.
Yes. Thank you for coming and attending to this presentation. I mean, you are the teachers that care. I wanted to share with you not only the experience of what we went through with assessment, but I wanted also the opportunity to have Carolina sharing her emotional story with all of us. I hope this has given us a different view of what we're doing, and that we can start the week with a different mood. Okay, thank you again. Thank you, Jaime. Thank all of you for your participation. I think Tom wants to say something.
Yeah, Tom.
Jaime, photo.
Photo. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Done. Thanks a lot. So see you next Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Bye. I'll share the
Thank you.
recording in my Facebook account as usual.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Weekend.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice Sunday.
Bye.
Here.
Now, Lourdes.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Español.
Bye. Bye, Denny, all of you. Bye.
Take care, guys.
Morning. Thank you.